everyone. Welcome to our new series called Love Stories. And in this series, we'll look at 4 couples from the Bible. We'll discuss Abraham and Sarah, Ruth and Boaz, Mary and Joseph, and Jacob and Rachel. Now, talking about love can stir up a lot of thoughts and feelings for different people. Now, typically, when people hear the word love, we may think of Valentine's Day on the 14th of February. We can think of marriage, or we can think of a specific person or maybe a past relationship. In our first lesson, we'll examine the love story of Abraham and Sarah. Although their story takes place centuries ago, the lesson we can learn from them today is still relevant for us. Through their story, we will gain a godly perspective on a key element to any relationship, and that is trust. Now, trust is defined as an assured reliance on the character, ability, strength, or truth of someone or something. We always say God is trustworthy, but what does it mean? It means when He makes a promise, He keeps it.
Now, as believers, we need to remember that our reliance and confidence is based on the character, strength, and truth of God. We should encourage others to do the same. Now, we need to remember that as with all relationships, Abraham and Sarah also had their ups and downs. But they had God, and having God makes all the difference when it comes to true love. In Genesis 17 and 18, we can see how true love encourages us to have faith in God. Now you might think, when we put our faith in God, is our life the same? And the answer is simple, no. The more we walk with Him, the more change happens within us. And this is what happened to Abraham and Sarah. Now God first called to Abraham and made him a promise in chapter 12, verse 1, 2, 3. At this time, his name was Abraham, and he was 75 years old. Now fast forward 24 years, we come to Genesis 17. And many things have happened in those 24 years to Abraham and Sarah. However, despite their mistakes and not always doing God's will, Abraham have never lost his faith. Now I would like to go read Genesis 17, verse 1 to 8. Now verse 1 to 8, God is making a covenant with Abraham. Now at this stage, Abraham is 99 years old. And just to highlight some verses, I will read the following. I will make a covenant with you by which I will guarantee to give you countless descendants. Now remember, a guarantee is a promise. And what's more is I'm changing your name. It will no longer be Abram, it will be Abraham. For you will be the father of nations. I will make you extremely fruitful. Your descendants will have many nations, and kings will be amongst them. I will confirm my covenant with you and your descendants after you, from generation to generation. This is an everlasting covenant. Now, after hearing the news of the covenant that has been made, do you think that God has forgotten what Abraham and Sarah did in the 24 years since God first appeared to Abraham? No, He did not. However, He knew it all, and He still kept His promise to Abraham and Sarah. Why? Because He saw Abraham's heart, and He knew that Abraham trusted God. Abraham kept his faith in God and encouraged Sarah to do the same.
What do we learn about true love from the scripture? We learn that godly love pushes us closer to God and not away from Him. Too often these days we hear of stories about couples who have gone down the wrong path. In these situations, one person usually leads the other person down the wrong path. That's not love the way God planned it. People who really love us should want the best for us, and we should want the best for them. There is no better than God. Knowing this means that we trust in the plans and in the promises that God has for us. Now remember I said go read chapter 17 verse 15 and 16 and we can see a second name change. Regarding Sarai, your wife, her name will no longer be Sarai. From now her name will be Sarah. She will become the mother of many nations. Kings of nations will be among her descendants. This is a clear indication that what God did for Abraham, he did for Sarah too. Abraham's faith and trust in God not only blessed him, but blessed his wife as well. To this day, God is still making the same promises. All he wants from us is to love and trust him and lead others to do the same. God will give reassurance of his promise to strengthen our faith.
Now remember, when this covenant was made, Abram was 99 years old. Now imagine to hear that at that age you will be having a son. The same could be said for Sarah. She was worried how she, in her old age, would be able to bear a child. But they both laughed when they heard the news. But they laughed for different reasons. Abram laughed with joy. He laughed with joy because although he didn't know how God was going to make it happen, he knew that God was able to make it happen. Sarah laughed with doubt. She knew that she was old, but she didn't see how God was to be able to make it happen. But God made it very clear that nothing is too hard for him. All they needed to do was to believe. Now you think, how can I apply Abraham and Sarah's message to my own life? Well, you may be dealing with something that's too hard. It can be possibly starting a new school, making new friends, forging a better relationship with your parents. It can be discouraging when things don't happen the way we want to, the time we want to. Then we run the risk of taking things into our own hands to try and speed up the process. When we do this, we often end up being pushed away further from God. Now I hope you have family and friends who love you enough to push you back closer to God. However, you can be that someone to somebody else. We must trust God that He will help us when obeying and the following gets hard. True love encourages you to put your trust in God.